All right, what's up guys? We're gonna do continue on in our tutorial on doing the sermon edit or an event edit, and this next step is mainly in Premiere. And so I've loaded up the project here, logged into Basecamp, and I'm just got this checklist right here is what we're going to go through. So very first thing is Nest video tracks, and this is because we edit basically what's called a multicam style edit. And so you could have as many cameras as you want. In this case, we have 2 cameras, and then we also have the capture from our switcher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Option. I'm going to select these 3 shots, and then I'm going to hit Nest. And what this Nest does is it creates another sequence, and then if you were to actually open up this sequence, you would see these 3 files right here. These are 3 camera shots. So you could see this one right here is our wide, right here is our close-up, and then right here, this is actually our program cut that has graphics and stuff like that. When we have all of these nested, we can do what's called a multicam sequence. So we can go in here and we can enable the multicam sequence by right-clicking and getting into there. And then if you don't have this multicam button, then I suggest you throw it in there just by hitting the plus and then find the multicam button and just drag it into your toolbar. And this makes it super easy to just kind of see your multiple shots and then to also see what your edit is going to look like. A good main reason you would want that is because if you have, say, graphics or a lower third or something like this, so like this copyright, if you're in multicam view, you don't see any of this artwork that's in the top layers. You only see your 3 camera shots. You don't see any of the bug or any transitions or anything like that. So this gives you a really quick way to kind of switch in between to see what you're actually outputting and then what your shots are. All right, so that's that, pretty easy. Mute or disable any unnecessary audio tracks. This is pretty simple. So for us, it's these 3 tracks. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete tracks that are empty. And then I'm going to, there we go, set audio gain to -3 in the primary audio track, and tube compressor. So I already did a tutorial on this, on what the proper settings are for the tube compressor, so I'm going to go through this really fast, but basically I want to cut off all of the worship, cut off the submissions offering, and then I'm going to jump into the beginning of the sermon. Right about here. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this, get rid of all this extra stuff, and then slide it over here. Excellent. Okay. I'm going to use audio gain to set my audio level correctly. And so we've got our peak amplitude. Let's see what comes in at. But basically we do 9 dB. Okay, cool. So we're going to say +9. And then we are going to set our tube compressor. So like I said, I already made a tutorial on this. I'll make a little like pop-up thing right here. So I'm just going to set this really quick.
Home by this time every night, and I was like, did I just give myself a curfew? Did I just give myself? And I'm like out of breath because I'm terrified.
Okay, cool. That sounds pretty good to me. All right. So now I have these, whoops. Now I've done these 2 things. Now on to the lower third. Okay, so the lower thirds are in the Creative Cloud folder, Destiny Common Artwork, lower thirds. And then if the one that you don't, if the one that you need is not in here, then you can just either mention it in the comment under this task, and then I can help make it. But most of the common people who preach have lower thirds in there. And then also, if we have a guest, you could also use this title here, and instead of like top line, bottom line, you could just edit it to say, Pastor Rich Whitmer, and then just take out the bottom line or whatever. Or you could use the bottom line as, from a specific church or something like that, whatever the formatting would be. So, lower third with Destiny Bug. So, one of the things that you remember from the very beginning is we copy and pasted this footage into the sequence that was already made. And that sequence is already made. One of the things that it had built into it is it had this transition piece right here. So, let me get out of this transition piece. It's got a little marker right here, so you can tell exactly where the video is full screen, which is nice. And so we'll kind of use that for the opener later. And then it also has the bug animation, which you can see right
He's
up
coming.
here.
Come on, somebody give the Lord a shout of.
And then there's the still, and then there's the bug animation out, which is basically.
You guys know breakfast is the most important meal of the day? Come on. You can't be like kids. We got to be like grown-ups, right?
There
like
it goes. And then we've also, of course, got our copyright. So let me just kind of move some of this stuff around. We're going to put our copyright here at the end, and then I'm going to grab this outro piece, and I'm going to put this at the end as well, and then I'm just going to go ahead and drag this bug still frame all the way through. And that's really the easiest way to do it. We've got our bug, and then I've just got to set up this to have the right timing. And that is most easily done with an animated title card. Now, making of the title card, I made a separate video about that. I'll go ahead and put a link up for that right here. And it's not that hard of a process. Just takes a whole nother program called After Effects, and we're not going to jump into that. But basically, this After Effects title card, here it is. So that looks good. So we're just going to go ahead and take this, and let's just talk about a thing that is kind of confusing. Let's talk about patching. So patching has to do with these buttons and these buttons right here. And basically what it means is if I have a source and a program, where does it go? And right now it says that my V1 will go to this V1 and my A1 will go to this A1. So if I were to drag this in, actually let me copy this over. If I were to drag this in, or sorry, not drag this in. If I were to insert this in, it would automatically go right there. That is like where it's going to go. Now, obviously, if you drag it in, you can kind of move things around and all this different stuff. If I were to have this A1 turned off and I were to insert edit in, only my video is going to come. And likewise, if I had only my audio and I were to insert this in, only my audio would come in. So there's some different ways to do this properly. So I want to make sure that my video is coming in V1, and then what I actually want is I want an audio track down here at the bottom. So we're going to say I want 0 video tracks and 1 audio track. And so now I've got an A5. And so I actually want my A1 to come down here to A5. And then I'm going to go ahead and edit that in here. And then I'm going to drag. There's a keyboard shortcut to select all past the timeline, but I can't remember what it is. So I'm going to drag that in, and then I want this marker to be right at the beginning of this. That way, the transition. Okay, that looks good. We obviously have to cut our source a little bit more.
He's coming. Come on, somebody give the.
Okay, so let's cut off some of that extra.
Come on, somebody give the Lord a shout of praise.
Okay, so obviously our camera work here is pretty rough, so we're going to switch over to camera 2.
Come on, somebody.
And then also, I think that this is quite a bit too long. Let's go ahead and do this.
Come on. Come on, somebody give the Lord a shout of praise. I was back there hanging out. I didn't know what was going on, but somebody just shout for no apparent reason at all. Come on.
All right, I'm actually going to cut this sermon here so we don't get him walking up.
Somebody just shout for no apparent reason at all. Come on, yeah.
Oh, that was cool. I walked right by the camera. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Now you might notice it looks like we have some lip sync issues here, so we're going to have to definitely fix that.
Somebody just shout for no apparent reason at all. Come on, yeah.
Okay, and then let's go ahead and bring in our lower third.
Somebody just shout for no apparent reason at all. Come on, yeah. That's fun anyway, right? Wake everybody up.
Okay, so let's jump into this. This is going to be kind of a little bit tricky. Normally our sync is good right out of Pluralize, but for whatever reason today we're having problems. But I guess that's kind of a good way to learn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to kind of...
That's fun. Somebody anyway, just shout for no apparent reason at all. Come on, yeah. I set my timer for 30.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get some reference.
That's fun anyway, right? Wake everybody up. I set my timer for 35.
So this is where he says I set my timer for 35 minutes. So I'm going to put a marker here, and then I'm going to listen to my track here.
Somebody just shout for no apparent reason at all. Come on, yeah. That's fun anyway, right? Wake everybody up. I set my timer.
Okay, I set my timer. So here. So then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to move my program track so these two markers line up. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a little fade in.
That's fun anyway, right? Wake everybody up. I set my timer for 35 minutes. Not going to happen. It's a long message, but you guys can handle it.
Okay, so those tracks are now in sync, but it's looking like we've got other issues. Okay, so we're going to do a quick run through and resync these cameras. For whatever reason, they are definitely out of sync. I do not understand why, but this is kind of a good exercise here. So basically what you have to do is you have to find a common area. So right here, when these videos transition, this is a good common area. So I'm looking at my service capture, so I'm going to put a marker here, and then let's find that same spot on this wide shot here. Wow, and this is like way off. Okay, I guess it's not way off, but I was just going the wrong way. Okay, so pretty close, right about there. So let's line those two guys up. And then what I'll do is I'll actually just turn this on and off to see how close we are. And we're pretty close. We're like maybe a frame off. Okay, so now now this camera ISO is exactly the same as the program cut. So that's what we wanted. And now let's compare our program or our camera 2 shot, which is our close-up. So we want to take a look at, we need to find our close-up here. Okay. So then I kind of do the same thing with this, is I find a spot where, so right about here, his hand is, so I'm going to do right there, kind of like his finger goes down. And then I'm going to find that exact same spot in the camera 1 ISO. Wow. Down, right there. Okay, so then I'm going to put a marker there. And then it's important to know which one to move. I don't want to move my service capture because my service capture is synced to this shot. So I need to move this shot. So move that. Line those guys up. Turn it on off. I'm about a frame off. On off, still frame off. Wow. Oh, I bet I'm moving the wrong thing. Am I? Oh, no, I'm not. I sure feel like I'm moving the wrong thing. Because you normally don't move things that often. I feel like this is the exact same thing, no matter what I do. Why is this? There we go. That was weird. I don't know what the deal is with that. But now we're all in sync. And we can probably tell better with this. Now the challenge will be, is our audio in sync?
That's fun. Anyway, right? Wake everybody up.
Okay, it looks pretty good. So the best way to check lip sync is to full screen it. So we're going to select our program window, tilde.
I set my timer for 35 minutes. Not going to happen. It's a long message. But you guys can handle it, right? All right. You guys ate breakfast?
Okay, so this is a little bit, audio is a couple frames ahead. So I'm going to bring my audio back. Ooh, maybe it's too much.
Breakfast and had coffee, right? How many people in here eat breakfast every day? Oh, come on. You guys know breakfast is the most
I went the wrong way.
important
Let's try this.
meal of the day. Come on. You can't be like kids. You gotta be like grown-ups, right? Like adults. Wake up and eat some food. I can't. I sleep too long. Be a grown-up. Go to bed a little early. Why is it so quiet in here? I remember when I was just turned 18. Got a great job. And I moved out and got my first apartment. It was a scary apartment, but it was mine. And I got it, and I was like, no one is going to tell me nothing. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to come home when I want. Man.
Okay, that looks pretty good to me. Man, it took me a while to get that figured out. And so, but sometimes it's just the way it is. And sometimes sync breaks and things, you got to figure out how to fix it. So, yeah, now we're good with that. So I've animated that. Color correct for dark, light shots. And then insert the point in lower thirds. Okay, so this is pretty easy. We're basically just going to go into the nested sequence, and we are going to apply the same color correction to all 3 clips. That way they match. And so I'm basically just going to go in here, and what I'm looking for in this is I'm looking for mainly blacks and contrast. And so if you want, you can stick with this. This color gives you a little bit of a bigger window without messing up all the presets and stuff like that. I like that. So I'm going to go into here, and I'm just going to bring my blacks actually, let's do the shadows first. So I'm going to bring my shadows way down, and you already can tell this is starting to look a lot better. I'm going to change my paused resolution to full. You can already tell this is starting to look way better. Let's do a little bit of exposure. I'm actually going to crush my blacks a little bit more. So I don't like the way that the blacks make this look. So I'm actually going to just bring my exposure down a little bit, and I'm going to bring my contrast here. A lot of this is kind of messing with it. I don't claim to be a professional at this color correcting stuff, but I definitely can see the difference in it, and there's a big difference between a color corrected shot and a non-color corrected shot, as I'll show you here in a little bit. Let me just keep on messing with this. Okay, so I'm liking this. This looks pretty good. And then one of the other buttons that I really like is this effects mute. Again, if you don't have it, you can just grab it and drag it in. And you can just really quickly look at your entire sequence without any effects on it. There's a pretty big difference between those two. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab, this is all my presets here. And I'm just going to go to the next camera, paste, and the surface capture, paste. That way, when I jump back into my edit and I look at my multicam, I can actually see, let's see here, but I can't see it. Oh, that's because my effects mute is on. That makes sense. And then you can actually see here how it looks. And so I don't need a marker button. I just want, and this is true for all of the shots. You can see they all kind of have that same. And then if there's one, you know, if you want to adjust, like say camera 1 a little bit more and make the not as much contrast, try to make it match camera 2 a little bit better, you definitely can do that, but just that real light color correction helps quite a bit. All right, now we're going to go ahead and insert in the verse and point lower thirds. So this is the way we do this. All of our verses are full screens, which we make in ProPresenter. I made a whole video on how to do this. I'll go and pop it up right here. And then all of our points are these guys right here. And basically you would have your title, your points. If you need more points, you can just click on it and you can duplicate by just copy paste, and then just make sure you rename it, put it in the right place. And you can have as many of these points, or basically their lower third titles, as you want. Then you don't want any audio to come in with this. Then you would basically just take this and drag it into your sequence, and you would have this animated point.
I woke up and I thought, man, that's it.
So that is how we do points. So now we're just gonna go ahead and put in all the titles and points. All right, so we're gonna just go ahead and run through this. I'm gonna probably just speed this up for the sake of time. But I wanted to just kind of talk over a couple things really quick. So we've already made all of our slides, so I'm going to go ahead and import in my folder of slides. One of the things I like to do, just as a quick, just kind of as a setup type thing, is I'll open up my slides and put them over here. And I like doing this because it gives me a real quick, I'm done with my color filters, so don't need that. And then it gives me a real fast way to access all my verses and kind of see what is coming, and I can just drag right into the timeline from here. So basically I'm doing thumbnail, view, sort by name. That's all it is. So now let's do this thing. Okay, so let's just kind of go really quick over the how to edit these titles. So real easy, top line, bottom line. There's effect controls here, and if you don't see the effect controls, you can just kind of click over, or you could also go to Window, Effect Controls, and we've got top line, bottom line. And so if we pull up our notes here, it's spiritual discipleship, the disciples' maturity. And so what we're going to do is top line is that, and then bottom line is spiritual discipleship. Now, this specific font and the way it's set up, it actually doesn't, caps don't matter, which is super nice.
Morning, but I don't feel like that. So I'm preaching on the disciple.
And then we're just going to go ahead and put this guy right
Preaching
here.
on the disciples' maturity.
So you can turn off your multicam.
I'm preaching on the disciples' maturity. The disciples' maturity. Hebrews 6:1, Paul says, let us.
Okay, so we've got an issue here right off the bat where it looks like a verse was missed. So if we look in here, the very first, it's kind of like in the subheading here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick explainer on how to do that. So if we're in our Pro Presenter doc here, then I'm just going to go ahead and add a slide, move it to over here to the beginning. Now every slide in this document automatically has a template in there. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to take the verse, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it in there, and then take the reference and manually paste it in there. And then what we're going to do is we are going to export this again on top of the old version. So we're going to say export document as slide images, and then we're going to go to our projects folder, and then we're just going to save it right here. It's going to overwrite this folder. This folder has all of our old slides, and we're going to just save, replace. And now when we go into Premiere, now our slide number 1 is that slide that we missed. So that's a good little tip, because every once in a while the document is messed up. Now one thing to note, because we added a slide, there's no longer 16 slides in here. There's actually 17. So if we were to look at our folder, this only goes to 16. Super easy to solve. Basically just jump into the Finder and find that 17th slide and then import it in. So we're going to find our 17, drop it right into the folder. Now we've got all the way up to 17. Cool. All right, so now let's put these verses in.
The disciples' maturity. Hebrews 6:1, Paul says, let us. 6:1, Paul says, let us.
One thing really quick I want to note is if you're using the shortcut Command D for default transitions,
Go on to.
Premiere likes to have a default transition of 30 frames, but this doesn't look very good in the edit, and since we are mainly doing dissolves for this, what you can do is you can go into Preferences, Timeline, and change the default to 15 frames, and that dissolve looks much better than the default 30 for what we use it for. So let me just do a quick note here. You can kind of tell that the focus is off, headroom is off. They're obviously adjusting something. So the easiest way, we're just going to cut to our wide shot here real quick, right after he
that you have
finishes
blessed
praying.
us and that your hand is on our lives.
And so
Lord, we love
the
you.
numbers
We
in the
love to be in your
keypad on the
presence.
keyboard
And so as we
don't
receive your
work,
word
but
this
the
morning,
keyboard,
Lord,
the
just
numbers
anoint
on the
it
top
with your
do.
spirit. Let us
So as soon as
receive
he
it and get
finishes
it in our
praying,
hearts and
we're
in our
going to
minds
hit the
that we can
number
change, Lord,
3.
so that we could be better for you. In Jesus' name, amen.
3.
All right, God's revealed purpose is to
Awesome.
produce disciples.
Now you can notice there's no
who
cut
will
here.
reflect- check
As soon
this
as
out.
you pause, it's going to put that cut in.
Be better for you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, God's revealed purpose is to produce disciples who will reflect, check this out, the perfect humanity of his son in their life and in the Christian service. Let me tell you what that means. So we see Jesus, and a lot of times people see Jesus, they make the mistake of thinking they see the spiritual side of Jesus, but they try to ignore the human side of Jesus. Okay? Now, Jesus is both God and man, 100%, not 50-50 at all times, but he's 100% man. He was born and lived on the earth, right? Now check this out. Jesus is not, man, you got to get this. Jesus is not.
So when you're doing a cut, you want to always try to do the cut in the area where there's a pause. So I kind of messed that one up a little bit. So let's look at this with the waveform down here.
Man, you got to get this. Jesus is not.
Okay, so I want to move this cut to here, this pause. So what I can do is I can long press on this, and I'm going to get the rolling edit tool. And then I can just move this cut right to here. Let's see what that looks like.
Jesus is not a God to be admired.
Perfect. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just putting in these chapter markers for ministry. Also, you can tell here that
thank you that we're
our main two-shot here is sometimes blocked.
Lord, I pray today that
So through this ministry, I'm kind of having to switch between this and our wide shot. Okay, so now that we're done with this ministry portion, so basically the rule of thumb with our edits, now this is kind of true for Phoenix. I think Yuma is a little bit different because they don't do the altar call actually from the stage, but if someone gets saved at the end of it, then I include the altar call invitation in the edit, and then, but if someone does not get saved, then I take it out. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just bringing this animation for the bug right here at the end. So this kind of like animates out. And then I'm going to put, let's see, I'm actually, whoa, totally moved the wrong thing. Moving this over just a little bit. And then I did a fade. And then I'm going to grab my copy right here and just move this right here and then set an out point. So basically my ending looks like this. This will animate out.
Lord, we love you and we receive that this morning in Jesus' name. Amen.
Fade and then copyright. Okay, so now basically the last thing, I have one marker here set for ministry, but I forgot to do my other markers, so I'm just going to use my lower thirds as my other markers. So I'm just going to do point number 4. If you're ever not sure about what letters should be capitalized and what letters shouldn't be capitalized, there is a great website called Title Case, and you could put the title of your point. So like this is a pretty long one here, and that's also spelled wrong. There we go. Develop right attitude towards temptation. So like, okay, what do I want here? And then we basically say I want to convert this to title case. So title case actually says, according to this website, which is a consistent standard, that this is actually how it would be capitalized. So that's good because I actually guessed wrong on this. So I'm gonna actually go through and fix this. But that's a great way to know what should be capitalized and what shouldn't. This is titlecase.com. So. All right, looks like I've got all my markers done. Got all my verses, lower thirds in there. Got my copyright. And then just to check the lip sync, what I do is I full screen the project or the actual program here.
So I would go to the trailer park where it is little RV.
And yeah, that lip sync is right on the money. So, all right, that's it. This is the conclusion of the editing Premiere. The next step is to export. So see you in the next video.